I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with WAVE weather. Clear to occasionally partly cloudy skies for the Merrimack Valley during the night. Low temperature 38 to 43. And then during the day on Tuesday, a nice day coming up. Sun with occasional afternoon clouds and middle 60s. Mostly cloudy skies at night, low 50s. A lot of clouds by Wednesday afternoon with a chance of a shower or two. And temperatures well up into the 60s. Cooler and drier weather returns on Thursday. This is Gary Best. Your next WAVE weather is coming up in 30 minutes.
Your soft gold favorites. WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Good evening, everyone. I don't see any sound. Are we up? Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Coco, and this is the Open Mic Show. This is sort of how we get started. The levels didn't seem quite right to me. Welcome to another edition of the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. Tonight we're going to discuss a couple of things and then have open lines. For the most part, we're going to go through a couple of news items, but one of those is the Haverhill Citizens Hall of Fame, the 8th induction into the Haverhill Citizens Hall of Fame took place Saturday at the Haverhill Public Library, where the Hall of Fame is on the wall of the first floor. Now, this is only the 8th time in the 30-year existence of the Haverhill Citizens Hall of Fame, so it shows you how much scrutiny goes into bringing in a candidate to the Hall of Fame. One inducted into the Hall of Fame was Louis H. Hamill of the Hamill leather industry in downtown Haverhill. And the other was John Bradford Davis, Jr. If you recognize the name Davis, yes, a relative of a past Open Mic Show guest, Kingsbury Davis. There's no connection between those two. And John Bradford Davis, Jr. Took care of guiding desegregation in Minneapolis. And I say, well, Haverhill people, during the tumultuous days of busing, we know a lot about that in Boston, but we didn't know all that much about it in Minneapolis. And John Bradford Davis, Jr. Set an example for the nation in how he proactively dealt with that situation. And what didn't really come up much during the discussion Saturday, his family was there, is that when Walter Mondale was the Democratic nominee for president, John Bradford Davis Jr. was considered for education secretary. So a pretty amazing man. And Louis Hamill, also amazing. Louis Hamill had a truly rags to riches story. He had to go to work at age 11 after his father left home. And by 18, he was in his own business. And by the peak of his career, the world's largest producer of goat skins for shoe linings. Pretty amazing story. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. We'll also give you an update on what happened at the what we called, half-jokingly, the Trashin' Show last week, but a fundraiser for Long Way Home. And we'll show you at least one person who was on the runway of that program in Newburyport Saturday. Yes, Saturday was a busy day in the Merrimack Valley. And, of course, there is more. We'll highlight a couple of news items. WHAV exclusively reporting how a Methuen politician, if you will, a license commissioner, and well-known in the Haverhill real estate circles, came to come under suit from the Secretary of the Commonwealth, William F. Galvin. Somehow the newspaper in town missed the whole local angle there. They mentioned Methuen, but didn't mention his Haverhill connections. Not criticizing as much as I am pointing out that sometimes you need to look at another source of news to get the whole story. So keep in mind, WHAV.net is the area's most comprehensive news source, longer form than the abbreviations we give you on the air. So keep that in mind. And I suppose that brings us to a where and how to listen discussion. WHAV is on the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can listen all that time at WHAV.net on AM radio 1640, cable television Andover, Channel 8, Haverhill, Channel 22, Methuen, Channels 8 and 22 on Comcast, Channel 32 on Verizon Fios, and in southern New Hampshire, Plasto, Channel 17 and 23, Sandown, Channel 17. But the Open Mic Show is also carried with video for the next 2 hours, and you can watch at WHAV.TV and on Haverhill Community Television, Channel 22. Now, of course, we're coming up. Well, is this the last week of the cake contest? So this is your very last chance to submit a birthday or anniversary wish for November. Next week, we'll start with December birthdays and anniversaries. So get in your names well before 8:15. If you know someone who's having a birthday or a couple that's having an anniversary, you can include yourself in that. You can include a family member, a cousin, a friend, next-door neighbor, the guy on the corner that you barely know, but know he'll invite you over for a piece of that cake if he wins. Well, here's the time. You have to talk to me on the air to win a prize. So it's very simple. Wish yourself a happy birthday or happy anniversary or any of the aforementioned people. And you could win a free 7-inch cake from LBD's Italian Bakery in Bradford, 140 South Main Street. Now, these are the people who are there every day. Yes, 7 days a week at 6 in the morning. Now, I know for some of you, that's the middle of the night. So, but these people are dedicated, LBD's second-generation Italian bakery, and they generously make this cake available once a month for this prize. If your name is called or the recipient's name is called, keep in mind that the recipient will receive a letter from WHAV. That's sort of your proof of winning, if you will. There'll be a number there to call. You call LBD's Italian Bakery, pick your flavor, vanilla or chocolate, and they'll prepare it fresh. And when you go to pick it up, bring your letter with you. So LBD's second-generation Italian Bakery, 140 South Main Street. Our thanks go out to them. All right, I guess we're going to stop handing out Whittier Birthplace passes since the birthplace will be closing for the season. Doesn't mean you can't check the website, johngreenleafwhittier.com, because Snowbound Weekend will be coming up this winter, so keep that in mind. Okay, so why don't we catch up on items we had last week. The Rubbish to Runway Refashion Show. Nate, that's in your folder, if you can find that. And here is an example, when it comes on screen, an example of one of the outfits that was created by our own Carolyn Russell right here at the station. Carolyn created this, and she probably will send me more information if I get this wrong. But it is made out of, like all of the items there, made out of, that's last week's picture. There's a new one called Trashin' Show. Trashin', I guess, is our funny name for it. Nate will get the right photo up. But let's see what I can find from this information from Carolyn. She told me the name, but I don't remember now of the model, so I'm looking it up as we go. And let's see. I have to stall while I'm scrolling through email. But in any event, this was her contribution to the program. I understand the program was a stunning success in bringing in money for the charity Long Way Home to assist students in Guatemala. So in any event, that is something that you might enjoy. The model is Maddie O'Brien. Maddie O'Brien. And this is what we have here. This photo was taken by Charlie Russell. Dress is made of mostly paper and packing materials. And I don't know if Carolyn wanted me to repeat this, but she says a half hour before the show, she had to effect repairs with duct tape. Well, you know, we all know duct tape is useful for everything, but it held up pretty well considering. Carolyn says next year she'll make something that models can actually sit down in. She said it was a fun and beneficial evening for Long Way Home, her friend Elizabeth Rose's organization that builds schools in Guatemala out of recycled materials. If you were with us last week, we had 3 generations of Haverhillites on the program who participated. Grandmother Jill Regensburg and mother and daughter Jennifer and Annabelle Dryden. They came on the program and they showed us some things. All right, Nate, did you find the photo I'm referring to? Because I don't see that you have it. All right. So, in any event, then you'll have some other things in there that I want to go over. So I'm hoping you have them all. They're in the folder TV graphics. All right. Now, those of you who are members of WHAV, and there is free registration available as well. But the newsletter Wavelengths came out yesterday, the monthly newsletter, and it continues our Haverhill Heritage Series, this time part 2 of the historic and rocky road for WHAV FM. Now, one of the reasons we're telling the story of the very first WHAV FM, which lasted only from 1948 to 1952, is because it's a long list of trial and error in Haverhill, and the latest one is happening now as this WHAV has won tentative selection by the Federal Communications Commission for an FM license. So we thought we'd tell the story of our predecessors in this long challenge to bring FM on. And the story mentioned, the Wavelength story mentioned, how a program on WHAV AM started in 1947 called FM Forum. It was a way of explaining to residents and listeners what FM is. Now, most of us seem to take it for granted. It's that better-sounding station on the dial in your car. And I would imagine even some young people haven't even discovered that there was such a thing as AM. It's still there. WHAV still uses it at 1640. But what's interesting, though, is a source in the story, F. Greg Cronin, who worked at Mario's radio shop on River Street. He had talked with us a couple of years ago, and the notes were finally put to use in this story, but he mentioned some of the other radio and TV shops in Haverhill at the time, and how owners of those shops and representatives of those shops went on the air on the FM Forum program to talk about the benefits and advantages of FM. One of those people was Mario Battistini. Yes, the Battistini family, still there. There's a big Magnavox sign on Washington Street, but still there, the Haverhill TV and appliance folks. And if Nate could find the photo of Mario Battistini, I think he may have. I have a delay on my monitor here. But this is not the greatest picture, but somewhere in the back of this store is Mario Battistini. Now, seems to be a relatively short person there. I don't know if that's Mario, but and you really can't see it, I guess, because his dark suit blends into the background. But there is Haverhill TV and Appliance as it once existed. You see those modern refrigerators up front and those washing machines on the side. I have to go down there again sometime and look at the ceiling and see if the same one is still there. But Mario Battistini joined Greg Cronin in helping to explain to the public the advantages of FM radio. All right, we're going to talk a little more about some of these topics, but we also have open lines tonight on the Open Mic Show. Please consider calling in, wish someone a happy birthday or an anniversary, bring up any subject you like within reason, keep it clean, 978-374-1900. We're going to take a very brief break, and we'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show in just a minute.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
This spot could have been yours. Support WHAV's local approach with your underwriting. Go to WHAV.net and click on Support to reach thousands of new customers.
Catch the wave!
So highlight some of the proposed solutions that's coming from the grassroots level.
On the next, Making Contact.
Climate change isn't an issue to add to the list of things to worry about next to healthcare and taxes. It's a civilizational wake-up call.
In her new book, This Changes Everything, Capitalism versus the Climate, author Naomi Klein argues that while it's too late to stop climate change, we can save our civilization. But it's going to take radical steps that will transform the way humans interact with the world.
So, when I call the book Capitalism versus the Climate, people say, well, that's divisive, But the thing is capitalism is already waging war on the climate.
On this edition, Naomi Klein speaks about her new book as the global movement to counter climate change matures.
Making Contact is heard every Wednesday night at 6:30. Remember, only local radio can bring you such compelling features, but only WHAV does.
Today is October 27th. On this day in 2004, the Boston Red Sox ended an 86-year drought and buried the curse of the Bambino. They won the World Series. Their sweep of the St. Louis Cardinals was almost, but not quite, anticlimactic. The pivotal battle had taken place in the American League Championship against their nemesis, the New York Yankees. Down 3-0 and facing elimination again, Boston did what no team had ever done before in baseball history. They came back to win the series 4-3. Then they took on and dispensed with the Cardinals. Jubilant Red Sox fans around the world celebrated. 3 days later, an estimated 3 million of them lined the parade route in Boston and cheered themselves hoarse as the victorious team passed by. For more about this and other mass moments, go online to massmoments.org. Brought to you by the Massachusetts Foundation for the Humanities.
Catch the wave! WHAV! Open mic!
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
On the Open Mic Show, I think you missed the first word. All right. We are a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. Okay, just a reminder, 8:15, we close November birthdays and anniversaries. You'll never, ever have a chance again to submit them. So call now, 978-374-1900, and wish someone a happy birthday or a happy anniversary, and their name will be placed in the hat. And I will tell you, according to Nate, who's looked into the Magic Cowboy hat, that we have very few for this month. Now, I don't know if something happened and the birth rate went down or what for November birthdays and anniversaries, but your odds of winning are probably the best they've ever been. So call in with a happy birthday wish or a happy anniversary wish, and you can even include yourself. There's no rule against that. The only rule is if you've won within the last 30 days, you cannot win again until the next cycle. So wish someone a happy birthday, happy anniversary, and the recipient could win a free 7-inch cake from LBD's Second Generation Italian Bakery, 140 South Main Street on the Bradford side of the river. You know, that's a debate in itself. I'll invite you to call in on that. Is it Haverhill South? Is it Bradford, the former town of Bradford, the town that was annexed in the Great War of 1896 by Haverhill? Tongue-in-cheek there. The Bradford District? What do you call Bradford? And if you call it a separate town, you're ill-informed. You know, I went to Haverhill High School with someone whose mother was not a native of the area and insisted that Bradford was a separate town and simply paid Haverhill to take the kids in the schools. I bet there's still a few people out there who think that now. But anyway, LBD's Second Generation Italian Bakeries at 140 South Main Street. And you know why it's south? Because when the town was annexed into Haverhill, they had to do something about these duplicate names. So Bradford got a south added to it. So 140 South Main Street, LBD's Second Generation Italian Bakery. The winner will receive a 7-inch cake. They have a choice of vanilla or chocolate. There's house frosting. And all really they're asking you to do is once you get your letter, give them at least 24 hours notice so they can bake you a fresh cake. And, you know, while you're there, you know, don't be cheap. While you're there, look at all the great things they have. They have breads, all kinds, sourdough, small Tuscan, pumpernickel. I don't even know how to pronounce some of these names, and I should know since I have an Italian last name. There's also pizza by the slice or a whole thing here. Cookies by the bag. You have a big event, you just take them out of the bag, put them in your own dish, and say you made them. Maybe you don't do that. Chocolate dipped cookies, 10 pounds here. Look at that. Chocolate dipped macaroons, biscotti, Italian cookies, rugula. And then they have pastries, breakfast pastry, American pastry, Italian pastry. Nate, stop what you're doing and go get me one of these. Brownies, cupcakes, whoopie pies, etc. Oh, and look, there's more on the other side. Pastries, pies, desserts, sweetbreads, specialty cakes. So you know what? LBD's Italian Bakery is doing a great job for you, providing these free cakes. Consider them. All right, so birthdays and anniversaries for November. Next week we start December birthdays and anniversaries. Drawing will take place at 8:15 tonight. Okay, let's review what we've done while we're coaxing you to try to call here, 978-374-1900, open lines. But last week, we had some great guests. 3 generations of a Haverhill family appeared on this show to discuss their participation in the Rubbish to Runway Refashion Show. And that was a grandmother, Jill Regensburg, mother and daughter, Jennifer and Annabelle Dryden. Well, Carol and Russell right here in the office put together, I'm going to call it an outfit, a costume, a dress, however she prefers me to refer to it. And she provided us a photo with the model. And Nate will put that back up again. From the distance here, you could never tell that this was literally garbage. packing materials and so on. The worst part for Carolyn is, and she admitted it, not me, that just before going on the runway, I guess something happened to it, and it was duct taped together. Now, all of you guys out there, you know duct tape is the solution to anything, right? So here it is. So this looks like one of the fanciest gowns out there, and yet it is made from garbage. So that was a great program, and we just wanted to bring you up to date on things that happened on the show. That, yes, they did go off well, and the charity Long Way Home benefited from this. They provide all kinds of services, helping to build homes and take care of students in Guatemala. The indigenous highlands of west central Guatemala. All right, so you have a thought on that? David Goudsward thinks I wear garbage for ties, so I kept this one that was made last week just for me. This LL Bean bag with tape. See, Carolyn? I do remember. Okay. All right. Then we also had a great Haverhill Citizens Hall of Fame dedication ceremony on Saturday at the Haverhill Public Library, bringing into the Hall of Fame Lewis H. Hamill, born in 1898, died in 1975. He was an innovative manufacturer, business leader, and philanthropist. And, there's a photo in there, though, that might interest a few people. Nate, I'll tell you which one I'm referring to. Hamill Ryan. All right, so Lewis Hamill's son, famed attorney in his own right, Louis H. Hamill Jr., appeared at the library. He didn't speak. Louis H. Hamill III actually did the speaking, but there is Louis Hamill, attorney Louis Hamill, speaking with John J. Ryan III, a longtime Haverhill attorney. And what didn't come up during the discussion, but you can hear it now on the open mic show, is that these are the sons of two people very much involved. So Louis Hamill, the father, hired, let's go back to Louis Hamill. Louis Hamill, the father, owner of Hamill Leather, hired John J. Ryan Jr. as the company attorney. And so it's very interesting that all these years later, we have the sons of both of those men, Louis H. Hamill Jr. and John J. Ryan III. And, of course, John Ryan is a historian in his own right, serving on the board of the Haverhill Historical Society. And I used this opportunity to talk to Attorney Hamill about appearing on the open mic show, and he has agreed. And we've been holding off on this idea, which is funded, was funded last year by the Haverhill Cultural Council, to bring us a special program about Louis H. Hamill, the father, appearing with famous radio comedian Fred Allen. And what we've never known until now is that the 12-year-old Louis Hamill Jr. is the one who recorded these programs at the Belmont Hotel in Harwich. I know this is getting little bits and pieces, but the story will be finally revealed when we bring back one of the next few editions of the Haverhill Heritage Series. So you might look forward to that. Interestingly enough, Hamill Leather does come up in the wavelength story from this past weekend. If you're paying attention, if you're a member of WHAV, you received by email the Wavelengths newsletter for October. And the Wavelengths newsletter tells the story of Lou Sargent, who worked at WHAV, and how he references in a publication he distributed nationally and in fact, our copy came from the library of the National Broadcasting Company in New York. He mentions Louis Hamill, and he quotes from a Haverhill Gazette lamppost item. But seems to me we're at news, and we could let's hold that discussion. Listen, I'm trying to seed this. This is open lines tonight. All kinds of great things to talk about. If you don't want to talk about what I'm talking about, you want to talk about how Nate abandoned us all last week by taking the night off with, I don't know, some kind of major illness. Well, we don't allow that here. So, all right. So call 978-374-1900. First, we're going to have local news with our own news director, Dana Esmel. A little sampling of world news from FSN. And, by the way, Nate will want to know this. Nate Webster's NASCAR recap is, I guess it's been promoted. You'll hear it independently around 7:30 in its own standalone program. So you might find that fascinating, too. So we'll be back after this.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:02.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England, Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Here's what's happening in local news. What had been Greater Haverhill's annual Christmas stroll becomes Chill Fest this year. The Greater Haverhill Chamber of Commerce, operator of the event, is giving the event a new name and some new features when it takes place from 2 to 6 p.m. Saturday, December 6. Quote, this winter-themed event will provide many of the same activities and offerings as the Christmas stroll, with a renewed emphasis on local businesses and our efforts to, quote, shop local, end quote, said Chamber President Stacy L. Brazisi. She said events include photographs with Santa sponsored by Pentucket Bank, cookie decorating at Inside View, and ornament painting at the Paint and Wine Lounge. The Haverhill tree lighting remains the finale. All activities will take place in downtown Haverhill, including the Riverfront Cultural District triangle of Washington, Wingate, Granite, and Essex Streets, as well as Merrimack Street and Railroad and Washington Squares. For more details, visit whav.net. A Methuen licensing board member with Haverhill real estate ties is among those that allegedly defrauded Massachusetts investors with a gold buying pyramid scheme. Secretary of the Commonwealth William F. Galvin filed a civil suit last week against James V. Piemonte, treasurer, and others associated with the Andover-based M. Goldex Team USA Incorporated. Piemonte is a member of the Methuen Licensing Board. He is listed as a manager of Scott Management and Maintenance Company associated with the Joseph Scott Companies of Ward Hill. Besides Piemonte, the company is operated by Jonathan H. Siegler, president, formerly of Boston and now living in New Hampshire, and Methuen residents Matthew M. Degatti, secretary and vice president, and Joseph Zingali's director. Here is Degatti making a pitch for investors.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Degatti, one of the co-founders of M. Goldex Team USA. And today we're going to talk about one of my absolute favorite subjects, gold. How you can buy it, hold it, but most importantly, profit from it through a very exciting company, M. Goldex, along with a strategic system developed by M. Goldex Team USA.
Galvin's office said the group offered, quote, securities in the form of memberships in a multi-level marketing program sponsored by M. Goldex, end quote. It operated from offices at 16 Haverhill Street, Andover. WHAV has placed calls to Methuen Mayor Stephen Anzani. However, he was unavailable for comment. There is more at whav.net. 5 Haverhill residents, including a 16-year-old juvenile, were arrested during a weekend warrant sweep and are due to appear before a district court judge on various charges. Charges range from a local ordinance violation and driving without a license to larceny and lewd conduct. In local high school sports, on Monday's schedule, Haverhill Hilly's girls varsity and junior varsity soccer teams are at Salem High School. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control is set to release fresh guidelines on Ebola, especially for health workers returning from treating people in West Africa. This as a nurse has criticized the state of New Jersey for putting her in quarantine in a tent in a hospital parking lot based solely on her status as a returning health worker. She has now been released to return to her home in Maine. White House spokesman Josh Earnest confirmed to reporters that the CDC has prepared new guidelines on Ebola and healthcare workers.
You will hear from the CDC later today some additional information about guidelines that they believe should be in place to, as it relates to protocols for returning healthcare workers or healthcare workers who are returning from West Africa. So we'll have additional guidelines from CDC. They'll make that announcement later on this afternoon.
South African police have launched a manhunt for the killer of national soccer or football captain Senzo Mayiwa. The soccer star was reportedly attacked when men broke into his girlfriend's house south of Johannesburg. Local media says one of the men demanded Mayiwa's mobile phone. He was 27 years old and had played for his club Orlando Pirates on Saturday. Kaiser Montag, founder of the Kaiser Chiefs Football Club in South Africa, says his club is in mourning along with the country.
For me, this is a national tragedy. And as a parent, I know the pain of losing one of your own. And as a club owner as well, I know what the pain feels like. It really saddens me that here we're talking about somebody whose career was blossoming, someone who was really at the prime of his career.
Top U.S. General John Allen has called on Arab nations to intensify their efforts to crush the Islamic State militants. The general, who heads the U.S.-led operation against IS, told coalition members it was important to counter the extremist message. In Washington, here's Kevin McAleese.
Speaking in Kuwait, the retired general called on coalition partners to clearly, forcefully and consistently reject the extremist ideology of the so-called Islamic State. The general also highlighted the jihadists' use of social media and that a fight must not only be had on the ground, but also the communication sphere. Representatives from several Arab nations were present, including Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, both with an active military role in the campaign to drive back the militants who now control great swathes of Iraq and Syria. Kevin McAleese, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Clear to occasionally partly cloudy skies for the Merrimack Valley during the night. Low temperature 38 to 43. And then during the day on Tuesday, a nice day coming up. Sun with occasional afternoon clouds and middle 60s. Mostly cloudy skies at night, low 50s. A lot of clouds by Wednesday afternoon with a chance of a shower or two. And temperatures well up into the 60s. Cooler and drier weather returns on Thursday. This is Gary Best. Your next wave weather is coming up in 30 minutes.
Phil Christie here. Last year, WHAV helped local nonprofits by airing 8,780 community spotlight messages. Only local radio can bring you this level of public service, but only WHAV does.
WHAV, Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
And welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. If you're new, do you know why I say that? Because this very program was started by the late Edwin V. Johnson during the 1950s. And this room is named the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom. Ed Johnson was born in 1924 and unfortunately passed away in 2003. He was WHAV's longest-serving employee, serving 34 years at the station. And the latest Wavelengths newsletter, WHAV's monthly e-newsletter, which is available online at WHAV.net. If you are not a member or haven't yet subscribed or for some reason overlooked it in your email box, we talk a little bit about why Ed Johnson changed his status from full-time at WHAV to part-time. That benefited quite a few Haverhill students, though, because he went to work for the Haverhill school system, ultimately becoming the chairman of the English department at Haverhill High School. But I was saying, it's funny how all of these topics converge on the Open Mic Show. But Lewis H. Hamill was inducted into the Haverhill Citizens Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about both inductees in a minute. But he was inducted into the Haverhill Citizens Hall of Fame and yet had a bit of a cameo appearance in our Wavelengths newsletter. If I could find the right section now. Let's see, in the newsletter. It was a long story, but it's kind of a magazine-style story. Lou Sargent, who became station manager at WHAV during a management shakeup in 1948, referred to a Haverhill Gazette lamppost column of that time, and he said a group of Hamill Leather Company workers would be pleased if station WHAV would play a recording of a song written by Robert Norrie, one of our co-workers, some evening so that we could hear it. Anyone know what song that is? I don't have the answer. It's not a trivia question. I'll tell you what, though. If you come up with a pretty good guess, since we won't be able to know, I'll let you take one of these prizes tonight, either the War and Victory Trivial Pursuit mini pack or the Flicks mini pack. Shrink-wrapped games brought to you by our friends at Kimball Tavern Antiques, corner of Salem and South Main Streets on the Bradford side of the river. Hey, that brings me back to my question of the last half hour. What do we call Bradford? The former town of Bradford? The Bradford district of Haverhill? That place on the south side of the river? What do you want me to call it? Because we have some great friends on the Bradford side of the river. Besides Kimball Tavern Antiques, our friends at LBD's Second Generation Italian Bakery are giving away this month's cake, birthday or anniversary cake, and you have about an hour to call in birthday wishes and anniversary wishes for November, and we'll draw the winner at about 8:15. So, what do you want me to refer to Bradford as? David Goudsward, just keep it clean. Bradford. All right. It's the former town of Bradford. As we like to joke, it really was annexed by the city of Haverhill in 1896. I think it took effect in 1897. Voters in both communities, Haverhill and Bradford, had to approve it, but it's always fun to refer to the Great War of 1896. But in any event, the Hamill Company indirectly had another connection to our Wavelengths story. When Lou Sargent was trying to figure out how WHAV could make money in 1948, he thought that perhaps businesses like shoe manufacturers, he mentioned specifically, could use radio to replace their internal publications and their public relations publications. he uses this example. He said that an employee of one of the, he calls it one of the largest and oldest shoe manufacturing concerns in the area, he said during a discussion with the president of that company, perhaps it was Lewis H. Hamill, the gentleman related the story of a discussion he once had with a discontented employee. The employee in question made the statement that the company made a certain profit on each pair of shoes produced. Very simply and very directly, the gentleman demonstrated with a few figures the impossibility of such a profit. The employee was quite satisfied that he had been in error. Lou Sargent says that same little scene could have been enacted for the benefit of all employees of the community. If only a fraction were convinced, it would represent a profit in understanding in goodwill. Ironically, Lou Sargent made his pitch not on the radio, but in one of those in-house publications he said should be replaced by radio. And thus we come full circle. WHAV FM in its first incarnation, 1948 to 52, was not a success story. Very few people had FM radios, and David Sarnoff of RCA just loved it that way. He didn't want people to tune away from AM. Well, as we now know, FM has become the dominant medium. But during the cost-cutting, because they couldn't sell the ads they needed, during the cost-cutting, our own Edwin V. Johnson and the weatherman, Earl Bud Smith, were left alone to run the station full-time. 2 employees. Well, that wasn't going to last forever, and Ed Johnson saw the handwriting on the wall, switched his status to part-time, where he remained at WHAV all the way into the 1980s. But Ed Johnson, and this is for the good news for the students of Haverhill, went on to have a great career in the Haverhill Public School Department. I was in his public speaking class. Tom Bergeron was too. And, that's not a bad thing. He's turned out some radio people over the years. We'll talk more about some of the Hall of Fame inductees. We'll talk more about radio. And more importantly, we'll take your calls like this one. You are on the Open Mic Show.
Hello, Tim Coco?
Yes.
You got Dave, safety advisor here. How you been?
Very good. We need a safety talk right now, don't we?
Oh, good. Happy Halloween, and don't be going out in the streets with your eyes closed and thinking you can really scare these cars away, because you can't do it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. We probably should have had you on last week because my street was pretty dark this week, and although many trick-or-treaters went out when the sun was still out, when it went down. It was dark. And
really?
These kids were wearing dark costumes and so on. I'm happy that we had no mishaps, but good point.
I also called you because I worked with one of the Hamill brothers at Colonial Shoe Ornament.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me your story.
One of the Hamill brothers that didn't want to, I don't know, for some reason they had a family feud. I lived on Chestnut Street in Haverhill. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
I think so.
And that was off of Water Street. So I worked for Colonial Shoe Ornament 8 hours a day.
I'm sorry, it's Colonial Shoe Ornament?
Yes, on Walnut Street in Haverhill.
On Walnut Street, okay.
Yeah, and he worked there because the other brothers didn't want him in the business. For some reason, I don't know, it was none of my business. So I got to know him, and I said, "Hey, Louie, how you doing?" He said, one morning he came in. Said, "I'm doing okay." And it was cold, it was snowy, it was in the winter. And I worked part-time after I got out of work from the Colonial Shoe, shoveling sewers and fire hydrants out in the winter.
You did that?
Yeah, they don't do that no more.
No, see, that's how you've been dedicated public safety servant forever.
Yeah. But anyway, my feet got so cold, I could hardly walk. So I saw him come in, take his coat off, and take his shirt off, his sweater, and he had newspaper wrapped around him, like a mummy. I said, "Oh my God, what's this all about?" the newspaper, he said, acts as an insulation, which is true. And he says it's the best insulation in the world.
Well, that's interesting. That's a good use for the Eagle Tribune, isn't it?
Yeah, so I tried this episode of his, and I wrapped my feet up in my boots and put my stocking over them in newspaper. And I was able to go a lot longer. I could go all day, but before that I had to go home and sit in front of my wood stove and get my feet toasty.
Wow, what a great story.
Yeah, he was an interesting guy. And from what I understand, I don't know, they didn't want him in the business, and why, I don't know. And they bought him a house and furniture. He lived across the street from me on Chestnut Street.
What I learned Saturday is that even relatives who are not in the business tended to get, for shall we say, a handout from Louis Hamill.
Right.
And I guess many of the Hamill clan went to college because Louis Hamill paid for that.
Right.
So maybe there's more to it than we know.
Probably, more likely. I worked for Hamill, Hoyt and Withers Tanning Corporation in Haverhill for years. And
yeah, were they the last tanner left?
we were the last to fold up, I believe. They moved to 80.
Where were they, on River Street?
No, they were in Bradford.
Oh, that's right, on the other side.
Yeah.
Middlesex, right?
Right, but
I'm thinking of, for some reason, Pope Machinery. I don't even know if they're still around.
no, but the Hamill brothers, they didn't get along, like you said, and for what reason, I don't know. And but they did have a booming business.
Yeah, this is I found the whole story fascinating because, let's see, he started, he had to go to work at 11 years old because his father left the family.
Right.
And at age 14, he became an errand boy for the Webster and Weber Shoe Company, and then later the Hartman Shoe Company.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if anyone remembers those names.
I remember Hartman, I've heard of it, and there's other, tanneries. Peabody was in Beverly. They were full of them,
Yeah, it's funny though. He, the way he got started, he was leaving the Hartman Shoe Company. He was 18 years old then.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of scraps around.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, "Well, how much for some of the scrap?"
Right.
And they said, "I don't know, kid," whatever they said to him. And they gave him a price.
Yep.
And then he went around to other businesses that could use the scraps. Maybe they needed smaller pieces or whatever. And he found that he could resell this scrap. And he became so successful that in 1915 he had a full floor at 100 Washington Street. Now, I think that's the Tap now, 100 Washington Street.
Right.
And then in 1920 had the whole building.
Right.
And then
I'm wondering if Hamill Leather donated anything to the museum. We did.
To Buttonwoods?
Yep.
That's a good question. I know that Louis Hamill, even though he died in 1975, as late as the 1980s, his foundation was still giving away money. And they paid for a big chunk of the new Hale Hospital on Lincoln Avenue, as far as equipping and furnishing it. And for whatever reason, the Hamill Foundation was not intended to stay around forever. In other words, they weren't just spending the interest and dividends, they were actually spending the money. And so it doesn't exist anymore.
Now, did he, I don't know whether this happened or not, he bought the business from Western Electric, that building, or did he inherit it or something? I don't know how that went down.
All I know about that, but maybe one of our listeners can tell us some more. What I know about that is he played a big role in bringing Western Electric to that building.
Right.
So I don't know if he owned it previously and it was, a sale for him, or whether it was just something charitable.
It's amazing what they're doing with these buildings these days, huh?
Yeah, I guess it's pretty expensive to renovate them because they don't have elevators.
Yep.
And I will say that kind of gives me a chance to make a commentary here. You know, during the 80s and 90s, owners just kept flipping those buildings as the prices went up.
Right.
But very few invested in them by putting in elevators. And we have to, I think whoever owned 52 Washington Street did the right thing and put in an elevator, and they also managed to have it shared with the building next door. So that was a way of spreading around the cost. So it's too bad that there are so many buildings downtown where the upper floors are not occupied because there's no access to them.
Right, but back in the days, you know what was good? You could go from one building to another and get a job.
Oh, you mean you could find work?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and actually, well, you said one to another. I thought you might mean those catwalks. There were quite a few of those on upper floors.
No, but if you got fired or you got laid off, you could go to the next building and pick up a job like nothing, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing how that industry collapsed rather quickly.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, Hamill was at the top of his game in the late 1940s, and 20 years later it was gone, I guess.
He certainly was, but I mean, I thought I was in business, you know, not in business, but I thought I was going to be with my company for life, you know? But you never know these days.
Well, especially these days. I bet, I'd love to have young people call once in a while, but I bet there's no young person in the range of my voice who believes that a job can be held for life.
Well, I almost think that there's no such thing as no work out there. There is work. It's people a lot of them just don't want to go out and look for it.
Yeah, of course, on the other hand, you know, what's funny is I was listening to something today.
Yeah.
Some of the industry that is the place of last resort to work is starting to be hurt itself. McDonald's is having trouble. Walmart is having trouble.
I see that.
You know, and I think what it is, if I may be so bold, is that, you know, no one has any extra money to spend.
Right.
And
right.
So these big companies need people with income, and yet it's kind of a bad cycle because they pay their people so poorly.
Yeah.
And then those people don't have enough to actually shop or eat out.
That's why you can get chicken McNuggets at Burger King for $1.49 for 10 of them.
Well,
even the chickens are having it rough.
I guess so. Well, it's good to hear from you.
All right, hey, you take care of yourself, Tim.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to wish you happy holidays. You and Nate.
Oh, great. Nate, you too. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you too. But I hope we hear from you throughout.
Okay, you will.
All right, thank you.
Right, bye now.
Take care. Bye. All right, our safety advisor on I think we call him consultant. What do we want to call him? Safety advisor Dave on the Open Mic Show. He's the one who usually, and we'll hear from him as the weather gets a little colder. He tells us whether or not the ice is safe for skating and walking. And it's really a great public service that he provides there because there's so many young people who would take a chance, and it's a chance with their lives. So we look forward to having Dave's ice reports and warnings as the season progresses. All right, coming up, I missed the community spotlight break, but coming up, we have local weather, but we also have now a standalone. Matter of fact, I have to talk to Nate about kind of recording a whole intro and some music. We've broken it off from the news because it's so popular. Nate Webster's NASCAR race recap, I believe. Can you confirm it's on the schedule? Okay, I thought I put it there. All right. So Nate Webster's NASCAR race recap is coming up. But as long as we're talking about the radio, Thursday, October 30th, is the 76th anniversary of the Mercury Theater on the Air program, The War of the Worlds, with Orson Welles. This is the program that panicked the nation. At least some say it did. It apparently didn't panic Boston because WEEI, the CBS affiliate, ran something else that night. But maybe someone picked it up from a New York station or what have you. But it was the broadcast that panicked the nation because it used simulated news bulletins and break-ins. And so WHAV is going to run the War of the Worlds 76th anniversary edition on Thursday. Now, on Wednesday, we're going to broadcast in its entirety the Haverhill Citizens Hall of Fame induction that took place Saturday. Apparently, there is no other recording. Oh, I see Nate found some graphics. All right. So you might find you can hear all of this, and you can hear from Hamill's grandson, and you can hear from the children of John Bradford Davis Jr. during that broadcast Wednesday. And it is Halloween, so of course Haverhill had its trick-or-treat a little bit early because it's set by ordinance. Mayor Fiorentini conducted a poll asking people if, because he says he admitted he's powerless, it's up to the city council, but had a poll asking people whether or not they preferred to have Halloween on the Saturday or to have it on the traditional night. I don't know that we ever got a firm answer, but the arguments are Saturday is much better for parents. They can supervise because during the week it might be they're working or what have you. And but others said they prefer the tradition. What do you think? Well, if we change it right now, which is impossible, but if we changed it right now, we could have trick-or-treat again this Saturday, which I'd be in favor of. This Friday or Thursday. So, but anyway, we're going to go to local weather and Nate Webster's NASCAR race recap. It all goes by fast, so stay tuned for more of the Open Mic Show.
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
WHAV is on Facebook. For quick access, visit whav.net and click on the Facebook icon.
Community Spotlight.
The Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce is hosting a 2014 Holiday Pops concert. Performances by Keith Lockhart and the Boston Pops. The concert will be held Sunday, December 14th at 2:30 p.m. in the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. Prices are $85 per ticket. Seats are located in Balcony E. Tickets must be ordered by Monday, December 1st. For more information about the concert, call the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce or visit merrimackvalleychamber.com. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at whav.net or email news@whav.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Martha Melendez.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
And welcome back to the Open Mic Show. Just a reminder, starting to clear comments on the watch page of WHAV. If you want to go to whav.tv, you can comment right as we go along. And if you're really shy, you can write to me directly at my email, tcoco, T-C-O-C-O, @whav.net. All right, let's go to the phones once more. You're on the Open Mic Show.
Hello, Tim.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm hanging in. How about you?
Good, good.
That's good. I was listening to the discussion about Louis Hamill and that whole thing. My father worked at Hamill Leather. He was a factory worker.
Really? Now, see, everybody has a Hamill story. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, he worked there. He worked for Snyder also, but, he was kind of back and forth between those two. Leather staker, whatever that is.
A leather staker. I bet we have some shoe workers listening who could tell us about the stakers.
Maybe so. There were tanners, stakers, whatever, but I never knew that Hamill ever lived on Chestnut Street, because Dave said he lived across the street from him. I wonder if he's in the upper part of Chestnut Street with those big old Victorian mansions, or up there someplace.
Yeah, I wonder.
The lower blue-collar section, I call it, down by my neighborhood.
I wonder, actually. I mean, we all know that Hamill had a home in Bradford on South Main Street. I'm not sure if Dave was referring to the elder Hamill or one of the children. But that's a good question.
And Halloween. Shall we say Halloween is over? Here in this condo development, I got a good number of kids with their little costumes on, and I actually have some Reese's peanut butter cups left over. But
you can bring them right over here. That's fine, thank you.
Well, once I start, I can't stop, and I always buy candy that I like, just in case I have leftovers.
Well, I'll admit, I did the same thing. On Saturday, I bought a lot of those Snickers peanut butter. Peanut butter and I, have an affair going on.
Me too. Oh, yeah.
And it was Snickers peanut butter. And as more and more kids showed up and I saw, the supply dwindling, I worried that there wouldn't be enough left over for me. And I got left with a couple of Kit Kats. But I guess the kids were happy.
But you notice, too, that the kids start to get a little bit older toward the end of the the time.
Well, my neighborhood is pretty well defined because it's almost a circle.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to tell you that other than one child, I didn't recognize anyone else. So I suspect we had some imports, but that's okay.
I guess. I used to cover the whole town, but especially the Highlands, and I always made out really well there, because back in the day, we went out on the 30th. Now, you listen to some of the city leaders, they'll talk about how they used to go out on Halloween when it was Halloween. No, it was the 30th, and it wasn't from 5 to 7. It was after the ending of Daylight Saving Time, and we did quite well back then.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I thought at 5 o'clock Saturday it was pretty bright, and it struck me that I don't remember trick-or-treat being so bright, but that's because we change our clocks later now.
Yep.
And on top of that, I also recall that back during the traditional time, and I'm also one of those kids who didn't trick-or-treat in my own neighborhood, mostly because my brother-in-law, big age differences in my family, my brother-in-law took us to his father's neighborhood, which was Goodale Street.
Oh, yeah.
And so I grew up in Bradley Brook, and so I was one of those kids on Goodale, but that's because his name is Richard Irving, and he knew everyone over there, so he took the kids there. Actually, I don't know, maybe you went to Haverhill High School?
Yep.
What year?
72.
72, okay. You're younger than he is. Okay, so I was trying to figure out if you might have known him. Lives up in New Hampshire now.
Last name is Irving?
Irving. My sister has since passed away, and so he's kind of a connection we don't see much of anymore.
Oh, yeah. But the Irving Petroleum? No?
Oh, it's funny. I never thought about it. I'm sure he doesn't own it, I'm sure, but maybe there's a connection there.
Not going to tell you, right?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, WHAV is looking for contributions and sponsors. Very good. Hey, you have any more birthdays or anniversary cake wishes?
No, I'm just waiting to see if my friend Christine wins.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm hoping for.
All right, then.
She doesn't even know she's in the drawing yet, but I'll tell her.
Oh, all right. That's good. Any other thoughts on any of our topics? Did you receive your WHAV newsletter? Did you have any thoughts on it?
Well, I received it, but I haven't read it yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking forward to that because, when you talk it up during the open mic show, it makes it more interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
Oh, good. Maybe that's a good strategy then.
And I'm having trouble with my email client as it is.
Oh, okay.
I've got 6,000 messages in my inbox right now. So
6,000. All right. So sometime in the next 20 years, let me know what you think of that article. It's a long one for us, but it's a little secret here, and maybe David Goudsward will chime in on this. David Goudsward's been pushing me to get some chapters done on what I'll call the forthcoming, I don't know when, but forthcoming WHAV history book.
Yeah, that'd be something.
And I thought I'd kill two birds with one stone and do them as articles in wavelengths so that their chapters are largely written. So
well, that's a good idea.
When they get done. But I have to admit, this one was more challenging because there were more sources to look at, more history to find, and to run across, quite coincidentally, these Hamill references on WHAV just kind of brought it all together. And David Goudsward warns me about that too. That they say there's 7 degrees of separation. It's like 1.5.
Yeah, right.
Everything is connected, especially in Haverhill.
Oh yeah.
So that kind of thing. And speaking of which, let me, while I have you on the phone, David Goudsward has published The Horror Guide to Massachusetts, and if I don't discuss it on Halloween, when can I discuss it?
That's the best time, huh?
So maybe we'll talk up that a bit after one of the breaks, and maybe we can coax David into coming on the air and telling us about some historic horror places around us.
That would be great.
Then
he wants to get to you before you start reading your clothing labels anyway.
Oh, that's right. And then we can all act like kids. I'm going to get you some soap, Brian. We're going to go out and we're going to soap windshields and take off garden gates and so on.
That's what I used to do. Now, my father, he grew up on Lowell Ave, and he said that they used to take the horses out of their stalls and back them in. They would take shutters off one house and switch them with the house next door.
Oh, back when those were real shutters as opposed to these plastic things people screw onto their houses.
Yeah. Now, all we did was, I don't want to give any kids any ideas, but they probably already have them. Well, we did a little bit of the soaping, after a while, and so stuff that was easy to get off. And we hung somebody's trash can on a telephone pole before.
Oh, these are good ideas. Keep going. Hey, kids, you're writing this down?
You remember those caution lights, the yellow ones, they flash on and off,
Yes.
And we put those on top of some of the empty houses in the urban renewal section.
Oh, really?
So that was kind of fun.
Wow. Actually, were any of those buildings abandoned around the time of Halloween to have some illegal fun in?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I never asked that question of you. So did you ever go into any of these abandoned houses and buildings?
Pretty much all of them.
You did?
Not only that, but my brother ran through the sewer system underneath Ginty Boulevard before it was open.
Well, is the sewer system that large under Ginty Boulevard?
Well, it was enough to fit a teenage boy. So.
Wow. Of course, here it is. I don't know, 45 years.
Like 67, 68, in around that time.
So I wonder how filled in it is by now with silt and stuff.
Oh, probably. That's a lot of time gone by.
Yeah, well, of course, in Haverhill, we'll deal with that when it's broken.
That's right. Well, I think most of the water pipes underneath were built over 100 years ago anyway, so, they're bound to break.
Yeah, I think Herb Nickerson, who was Haverhill's water superintendent, 30, 35 years ago, told me that Haverhill has the 5th oldest municipal water system in the country.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it, yeah.
But, they did a lot of work. I have to give credit where credit is due. They did a lot of work on the systems, 30 years ago or so. Mm-hmm. Putting that cross-country connection between Crystal Lake and Canosa Lake, that was a big undertaking.
Oh, yeah.
That was Haverhill's version of the Big Dig.
Yeah.
Expanding the capacity of Canosa Lake. I'm sure some people now, if you're old enough to remember, probably don't like the way the wall was built to raise the level of the lake. But speaking of Herb Nickerson and the lake, he tried to. We had a problem once with, I think, geese. How shall we say? Contaminating the lake. And he went out there with some kind of, non-scientific, superstitious device. I can't describe it.
Do you mean the recording?
What's that?
Do you mean the recording that has geese flying and sniper fire? Well, rifle fire.
Really? Is there something like that?
There is. It doesn't do any good, but...
I don't think he used that, but that's interesting. And
that's
he
up there now. I mean, last I knew, I haven't been up there in a while, but one of my classmates works up there in the water department, and it was on when we were there, trying to get through the gate to get into park, to go to a meeting. And
Really? Okay, folks, let's hear more about this. Speaking of this, now, here in Ward Hill 30 years ago, at least 20, some businesses were having some problems with the seagulls at the landfill. And one business on the other side of the park, I guess that's the west side. I'll never understand this east-west when I'm facing north-south.
Yeah.
But had this little cannon that would go off on a regular interval.
Really?
Including in the middle of the night.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
And everyone blamed Ogden for it, but it turned out to be another business here.
Oh.
And so that was the cannon fire. We could just keep going now, couldn't we?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was really surprised, though, that they would use something as simple as a recording of geese and rifle fire, because the geese don't care about that.
I guess Nickerson, I believe he was successful with whatever this supernatural thing was. And I think all the scientific people said that's ridiculous, but we didn't have geese when he used whatever he was doing.
Really?
And we do now. So.
Oh, my.
All right. Okay, Nate is signaling me that we have another call, but I'm going to ask him to take our break first and keep our caller waiting. And we're getting a birthday wish. But, Brian, it's always a pleasure, and you are a wealth of information.
Well, I just hope it's accurate.
Well, it sounds pretty good. Besides, telling kids how to get even on Halloween and run through sewer pipes downtown, I think this is all good advice.
We got caught one time, though. Oh, man.
Okay. All right, kids, this is the part where you get the lesson.
Yeah, we had to wash the car.
You had to wash a car?
We had to wash the car. We got caught. We covered all the windows in that station wagon.
Oh.
You couldn't see. You couldn't drive the car. It was so bad. What we
but
did.
it was soap, right?
It was soap.
All right, so it kind of washes
we washed
away.
The car for 'em.
I mean, you weren't one of those kids who use, spray paint.
No.
That's when it was innocent. Yeah, we are really doing a bad job tonight setting examples. All right,
grandparents are gonna call and complain. Oh, no.
All right, well, thanks for calling.
Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to get back to gossip and bad advice in just a minute. We have to take a brief break. We have a movie review this hour, very short, and then we're going to pick up. We have a caller waiting with a cake, and I apologize for the delay. We'll get right to you after this.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Listen to The Wave with fewer interruptions, no pop-ups, and a choice of players by tuning directly from www.whav.net.
Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. They're attracted by the region's technology and innovation, housing and education, workforce, arts, culture and recreation, and convenient location and easy access. Learn more and look at profiles of all 24 cities and towns at the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council website at merrimackvalley.info.
Catch the wave!
Here, don't forget your free ticket to the biggest theater in the world. Your seat is reserved for Modern Theater of the Mind every Tuesday night. WHAV presents Radio Theater Project, a new anthology series of comedies, dramas, mysteries, and science fiction. Tune in every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. or the encore performance at 1 a.m. Remember, only local radio can bring you this feature opportunity, but only WHAV does.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, Windmills Await. Kill the Messenger is the new movie produced by and starring Jeremy Renner, and an ambitious affair it is. Part documentary, part journalist sleuthing adventure, and part family drama, it succeeds more often than not. It's primarily the story of Gary Webb, a reporter at the San Jose Mercury News, who stumbles onto the story of how the CIA, as a fundraising adjunct to Iran-Contra, became involved in the cocaine trafficking that fueled the U.S. crack epidemic of the late 1980s. If this were all it was about, the picture would be less than revelatory in 2014. It is rather about the complex interaction of government agencies in damage control mode, pusillanimous corporate media, and the strength of family and other relationships. The movie works because Renner, in his best performance since The Hurt Locker, so passionately and capably captures his tragic character, Gary Webb. Mary Elizabeth Winstead gives a great performance as Webb's conflicted and equivocating editor. Rosemary DeWitt stands out with a nuanced portrayal of Gary's wife, Susan, as she tries desperately to hold their family and marriage together and to be supportive, both with what was going on around them at the time and in light of an earlier incident which had precipitated the family's move to California. Director Michael Cuesta of Homeland and Dexter fame chooses to cover the end of the story in postscript, either out of a concern for the running time or for not making the movie completely depressing. The times and the techniques and technology of journalism have changed since the 90s, but if Julian Assange streams Kill the Messenger in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, he'll probably conclude that little else has. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at Take2MovieReview.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Take2_Review.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Back to the open mic show. If Nate were just a little faster, I guess this is what they mean by the term asleep at the switch. All right, thank you, Nate. Yeah. All right, we have a phone call now with, Nate says I'm Al Roker now, so you have an important milestone birthday to tell us, is that right?
Yes.
All right, why don't you tell us?
It's my mom's birthday, November 12th, that's the following Wednesday. And she's going to be 102 years old.
Happy birthday. 102 years old. What's her first name?
Irene.
Happy birthday, Irene.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. She's laying down. I take care of her. I have to watch her and that.
Oh, okay. Isn't that nice? But she's at home and she's well?
Oh, yes. She's all right. I take care of her. I'm her daughter, and I take care of her 24/7.
Oh, wow, isn't that wonderful? So we're putting her name in the hat, and she could potentially win a free cake from LBD Second Generation Italian Bakery.
Oh, that would be lovely.
140 South Main Street. We have actually very few entries, so her odds are good.
I know, and my daughter's is today, October 27th.
Oh, did you call it in last month?
No, I didn't.
All right. You got to keep...
I think my other daughter might have.
Oh, all right. Well, keep those names handy.
But my mom, she's very important to me, so I'm...
Well, isn't that sweet? Thank you so much. Happy birthday, Irene. And we'll put your name in the hat.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for listening.
I'm always listening. I love your show.
Oh, great. Thanks so much.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Well, thank you. Take care.
You have a lovely evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. We're going to ask Nate to hit the... Nate, if you could hit that button... All right. So, all right, we are coming up. Geez, this is going by fast. 6 minutes before 8 o'clock, and I was looking at my my complimentary copy of Horror Guide to Massachusetts, and being Halloween week. Haverhill did it all so early, but being Halloween week, Horror Guide to Massachusetts, written by David Goudsward and his brother Scott Goudsward. And what do I have here? All right. Let's see. It's like 320 pages. Man, let's see. Oh, isn't this funny? I didn't notice this before. It's by the Post-Mortem Press in Cincinnati. That certainly tells us that the theme is right. Let's see. Let's look at, before the news, let's look at a couple of chapter headings and maybe we can explore them. All right, this is done by town, at least in the front of the book. Let's look at some local stuff. Amesbury, the Brown family is huddled in their home on a cold October night in 1836, as is the entire town of Amesboro. Is that what it was called? Or is this is fiction? I don't know. That's David Goudsward can explain what I'm looking at here. Then there's Friend Street, Amesbury, drawing relief Whittier home is where the noted poet lived and worked from 1836 until his death in 1892. So this is a guide, and I guess David's calling to rescue me now. All right, you are on the Open Mic Show.
You started without me.
I started without you. Well, I thought maybe you were waiting for an invitation, so...
With that tie, that's an open invitation for Halloween.
Oh, yeah, well, you see, but this is perfect for Halloween. I could just hang myself with it. All right, David...
That's a little excessive for that tie. Maybe the one you were wearing last week.
Oh, well, you see, that one here. This one here, though, will tear, see? All right.
Oh, an easy out. Just for the record, the Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater did not play in Boston because they were running a state constitutional amendment forum.
Well, there you have it. Massachusetts always doing something else.
Well, EEI had just been bought by CVS, and they knew that it was a dead zone up here.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't listening to Edgar Bergen, you certainly weren't listening to Mercury Theater in Boston. So they ran this constitutional amendment forum instead.
All right. Well, David Goudsward always has some interesting trivia. Hey, David,
Page 87.
What's that?
Page 87.
It's in your book?
It's in the book.
It's in the book. I'm looking at the front of this, or the early pages, and tell our listeners something about this. This is organized by town, alphabetically?
For those of us of a certain age, there used to be an object called a gazetteer.
Okay.
Where you would look up the name of the city, it would give you the population, it would give you the tourist attractions, just a little, one paragraph, 50-word, 100-word, 200-word for a city synopsis. It's basically set up in a gazetteer file. So you look up a particular town.
Well, it makes it easy to use.
It's treated as a reference book by some people, but I use real towns with fictional towns interchangeably. So
is that where Amesboro comes from? Is that where Amesboro?
Yeah, Amesboro is fictional, but I think.
I'm sorry?
He based it on the town of Amesbury, but it's spelt differently when his story. So.
And this is well illustrated. I see the birthplace of Edgar Allan Poe, 62 Carver Street, Boston. So this is quite a book, and it isn't too late to get it for Halloween. I bet someone could get it on Amazon and have it in time for some Halloween reading in a couple of nights.
Why, yes, they could.
That's good. You know what? Just because Haverhill had trick or treat, like a year early or something, you can still read to your children these interesting stories, and you can pick towns, and you can pick some fictional places based on those towns. And look at
Or
this.
you could go right to Haverhill.
And actually, I'm getting there, but I'm still in the B's. I'm caught up in Commonwealth Avenue at Fairfield in Boston. All right.
Well, Haverhill is, if you think about it, Haverhill is a very odd town, even by Massachusetts standards.
All right.
Let's start with the town heroine, the axe murderess with the statue.
Oh, yes.
Let's go with the fact that one of the witch trial judges is buried in Pentucket.
Excellent point.
Directly in front of him is a stone with a man's name of Nathaniel Peaslee. H.P. Lovecraft, when he visited Haverhill, saw that stone, thought the name was perfect, made it into the hero of one of his stories.
All right. Hey, David, would you mind letting us continue this discussion after the news?
Sure.
Because we have another call that, no offense to you, but our listeners might like to hear about a new trivia prize from Kimball Tavern
Absolutely.
Antiques. All right, so why don't we catch up with you on the other side of the news?
I'll give you a call afterwards.
All right, thank you so much, David.
You bet.
Bye. All right, is it going to be here? All right, so Nate, you're going to send it to this line? All right. So our friends always like to hear about trivia prizes and Halloween, so we have some dueling choices tonight on the Open Mic Show. All right. You're on the Open Mic Show.
I am. What happened there? I didn't want to cut in on Dave.
Oh, no, we'll bring him back after the news.
What time you going to news?
Right now.
Right now?
Yeah,
this is the news. I'm on. What do you want to know about the news? Price of keeping the river clean rising. We're gonna borrow another. It's going to cost us another $12 million. That's news.
And you're writing a check for that amount.
Yeah, well, you know something? I don't know if I worked for the water department when Mr. Nicholson was here, and I'm not going to really say that worked or it didn't work, but I'm going to give you more information on that.
I would love to know that, but see, this is why
there's some guys there that would know, but I don't remember those geese leaving for very long. I used to jog around the lake quite a bit. I got a trivia now, just before the news. Let's see, it's about, on Andy and Mayberry. You know the show, Andy and Mayberry?
That's right, the Andy Griffith Show.
Okay, what was Floyd the Barber's last name? His stage name, not his real name, his stage name. It was Floyd, yeah, it was Floyd what was his last name?
Did Floyd have a last name?
Oh, well, you got to watch the show. You'll catch it. That's where I got it from.
Isn't that interesting? Now, let's see. Do you know the first name of the barber on the Great Gildersleeve Show?
No, I don't.
It was Floyd.
Floyd, there you go. Hey,
I guess Floyd was a popular name for barbers.
Hey, Dave's very interesting. Tell him he's going to take a ride by Kimball Tavern because there's something going on upstairs on the third floor.
Oh.
You know, that is haunted, so, I mean, it's in the book of Haunted Taverns. I don't know if Dave knows anything about
we'll have to check his
Kimball
reference.
Tavern. Ask him if he knows anything about Kimball Tavern. I'll let you go to news.
All right, but actually I want to hear about this geese...
I'll find out more information. But Craig says, my brother Craig says, hey, if there's no treat, there's going to be a trick.
Ah,
so
and you're referring to the women working on White Street.
Hey. Well, I was trying to get in on the action. I mean, some action somewhere. But,
I'm sorry, that was a low blow on my part.
Are you on FM yet? My son keeps asking me up in Sandown. Are you on FM?
No, we're still working on it. We have okay. Now that you've asked, we are. The FCC awarded FM license to both the Catholic Church and to WHAV, and basically asked us to fight it out among ourselves how it would work. Wow. We chose to try to deny their petition because we don't believe they're offering any local programming which is necessary to get this license, and they are trying to get us knocked out, and they were successful in knocking out 2 others, so they can't be counted out. But we continue the battle, and unfortunately, and as in all of these cases, no matter who wins, we know the lawyers will win.
Well, keep us posted, and I'll let you get to news, but see if you can get a picture of Kimball Tavern up there. There's something about your opinions expressed on the open mic show and not necessarily those of WHAV.
Yeah, why is that on?
Or affiliated stations. I have no idea.
I think it's on because I made a comment about the nice ladies working on White Street.
It's Halloween.
Right.
Strange things are happening. All right, God bless.
Hey, thank you so much. We'll look forward to hearing those stories, and we'll have a photo of Kimball Tavern up on the screen during the news. How's that?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right. Nate is just taking more phone calls, working quite a bit, but I'm going to ask everyone to hold on a second so we can go to local news. And I did promise we'll put a nice photo of Kimball Tavern Antique up, at least during a second, during the news. And then we'll come back. We're going to talk about horror. We're going to talk about Louis Hamill. We're going to talk about Nate Webster. I mean, it's so much going on here. But I'm glad to hear listeners are corroborating some of my stories. You see, I don't make this stuff up. Herb Nickerson out there scaring away the geese with some supernatural mechanism, probably something from Torchwood. So, and Woody's going to get back to us. And now you have another thing besides birthday cakes. On the TV show Andy Griffith, what was Floyd the Barber's last name? If you can answer that, you get I believe it's the usual prize, $10 gift certificate, same as cash at Kimball Tavern Antiques, corner of Salem and South Main Streets. But let's go to news late as usual. We'll be back.
Open mic.
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 8:06.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England, Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Here's what's happening in local news. A developer with plans for 12 new homes off Salem Street in the Bradford section is asking the Haverhill City Council for relief from an affordable housing requirement. A petition from attorney William J. Barron, representing Comanche Circle LLC managers Stephen M. Smolak and John W. Davidowitz, requests the council grant relief from the provisions of the zoning approvals requiring that there be an affordable unit as part of the development at 77 Salem Street, the site of the former Dimitri's Restaurant and previously the former headquarters of the Bradford Country Club. The petition has the support of the city's Community Development Department. According to a letter of support from Andrew K. Herlihy, Division Director, inclusionary zoning housing policies, which require one unit with an affordable restriction, quote, places an onerous burden that jeopardizes the financing of this project, end quote. Herlihy also said the policies are being revamped by the city and, quote, the potential loss of one housing unit will not noticeably impact the goal of having over 2,550 affordable units citywide, or 10% of the city's housing stock as required under the state's Chapter 40B affordable housing law. The Haverhill City Council meets at 7 p.m. Tuesday in council chambers at Haverhill City Hall. A Methuen licensing board member with Haverhill real estate ties is among those that allegedly defrauded Massachusetts investors with a gold-buying pyramid scheme. Secretary of the Commonwealth William F. Galvin filed a civil suit last week against James V. Piemonte, treasurer, and others associated with the Andover-based M. Goldex Team USA Incorporated. Piemonte is a member of the Methuen Licensing Board. He is listed as a manager of Scott Management and Maintenance Company associated with the Joseph Scott Companies of Ward Hill. WHAV has placed calls to Methuen Mayor Stephen Anzani, however, he was unavailable for comment. Galvin's office said the group offered, quote, securities in the form of memberships in a multi-level marketing program sponsored by M. Goldex, end quote. It operated from offices at 16 Haverhill Street, Andover. There is more at WHAV.net. A Haverhill man is due to be arraigned in court on a charge of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon after his arrest early Saturday evening. Haverhill police report 48-year-old James Cronin of Haverhill was taken into custody at 5 p.m. Saturday on Franklin Street. No further details are available. In local high school sports, the Whittier Tech Wildcats schedule for Monday includes boys varsity soccer at Chelsea High School. The girls varsity soccer team hosts Chelsea. Girls junior varsity soccer travels to Greater Lowell Tech. Girls varsity volleyball is at home against Austin Prep. And boys junior varsity football travels to Shawsheen Tech. For full schedule details, visit WHAV.net. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control is set to release fresh guidelines on Ebola, especially for health workers returning from treating people in West Africa. This as a nurse has criticized the state of New Jersey for putting her in quarantine in a tent in a hospital parking lot based solely on her status as a returning health worker. She has now been released to return to her home in Maine. White House spokesman Josh Earnest confirmed to reporters that the CDC has prepared new guidelines on Ebola and healthcare workers.
You will hear from the CDC later today some additional information about guidelines that they believe should be in place to as it relates to protocols for returning healthcare workers or healthcare workers who are returning from West Africa. So we'll have additional guidelines from CDC. They'll make that announcement later on this afternoon.
South African police have launched a manhunt for the killer of national soccer or football captain Senzo Mayiwa. The soccer star was reportedly attacked when men broke into his girlfriend's house south of Johannesburg. Local media says one of the men demanded Mayiwa's mobile phone. He was 27 years old and had played for his club Orlando Pirates on Saturday. Kaiser Montag, founder of the Kaiser Chiefs Football Club in South Africa, says his club is in mourning along with the country.
For me, this is a national tragedy. And as a parent, I know the pain of losing one of your own. And as a club owner as well, I know what the pain feels like. It really saddens me that here we're talking about somebody whose career was blossoming, someone who was really at the prime of his career.
Top U.S. General John Allen has called on Arab nations to intensify their efforts to crush the Islamic State militants. The general, who heads the U.S.-led operation against IS, told coalition members it was important to counter the extremist message. In Washington, here's Kevin McAleese.
Speaking in Kuwait, the retired general called on coalition partners to clearly, forcefully and consistently reject the extremist ideology of the so-called Islamic State. The general also highlighted the jihadists' use of social media and that a fight must not only be had on the ground, but also the communications sphere. Representatives from several Arab nations were present, including Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, both with an active military role in the campaign to drive back the militants who now control great swathes of Iraq and Syria. Kevin McAleese, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Clear to occasionally partly cloudy skies for the Merrimack Valley during the night. Low temperature 38 to 43. And then during the day on Tuesday, a nice day coming up. Sun with occasional afternoon clouds and middle 60s. Mostly cloudy skies at night, low 50s. A lot of clouds by Wednesday afternoon with a chance of a shower or two. And temperatures well up into the 60s. Cooler and drier weather returns on Thursday. This is Gary Best. Your next wave weather is coming up in 30 minutes.
Phil Christie here. Still not sure when your favorite features are broadcast? Check out the What's On page at www.whav.net for complete listings.
Community Spotlight.
The Haverhill Public Library has launched a new mobile app. It is free and provides access to your library account 24/7 all year round. App users may renew items, request items, search the catalog, and more. There is also access to the calendar of events and connections with the Haverhill Public Library on social media. Users must have a smartphone or tablet and a library card number to access the app. For more information, visit haverhillpl.org or call 978-373-1586. Someone You Know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at whav.net or email news@whav.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Martha Melendez.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show. Yeah, the calls are piling up now, but let's try to move through a few things pretty quickly. It is 8:15 or so why don't we draw the name from the hat? We got a few more in here. I'm just going to spin them around a little bit, and let's see what happens. All right, everybody, if you're watching on WHAV TV, I'm holding it over my head, and of course you can't see anything, but we're going to draw a name. All right, so who do we have here? Oh, Sophie. Sophie, also 101. Sophie, I don't even... Marcel called this one in. Happy birthday, Sophie. All right, do I have that right, Nate? Is that your handwriting? All right, so it looks like I didn't realize we had two centenarians in the mix here. So, Sophie, happy birthday, 101 on... I think it says November 4th, and this was called in by Marcel. All right, we'll put together those letters and get those out. Happy birthday, Sophie. All right, trivia question on the TV show Andy Griffith. What was Floyd the Barber's last name? It was only mentioned once or twice in the series. Person answering that correctly, the first one answering it correctly, wins a $10 gift certificate to Kimball Tavern Antiques. And by the way, just to make sure it's clear, Sophie's be getting a free 7-inch cake from LBD's second generation Italian bakery. All right, I'm going to try to rush through a few things because so much is suddenly happening. You heard it first on the Open Mic Show. Sean Toohey, candidate for State Senate for 1st Essex, said today he has received the endorsement of Charlie Baker, the Republican nominee for governor of Massachusetts. Okay, there'll be more on WHAV News about that. All right, some comments received. Mayor Fiorentini said he learned how to speak in public from Edwin Johnson and his public speaking course at the old Haverhill High School. Those of you who remember the dedication of this room, the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, Mayor Fiorentini was one of the principal speakers, and he told, if I recall correctly, that Ed Johnson told him to breathe from his stomach, which is something the mayor thought would be difficult to do, but apparently has pulled it off with all the speeches he's made. And speaking of Fiorentini, speaking of Toohey, we have a comment here from Henry.
Junior picks up his first win in March.
Why am I hearing that? All right, we have Henry writes, Just wondering what the deal is between Fiorentini and Bill Ryan. All of the Fiorentini sign locations now have signs for Sean Toohey, Ryan's son-in-law. Why are all the mayor's people supporting Ryan? What's the deal between Democratic State Committeeman Fiorentini and longtime Republican state rep and lobbyist Ryan? All right, well, I don't know. Maybe someone wants to answer that caller's comment. And again, we're switching back and forth all these names. Edwin Johnson's widow, Pat, was very happy to see the Wavelength story. She writes, excellent, brings back a lot of memories. I remember Greg Cronin, Jay Bovin, John Kirby. You've done a lot of research work on this for sure. That was a very nice comment. Okay, Nate, the next call, are you sending it or am I taking it? I'm taking this one. Okay. You are on the Open Mic Show.
I have an answer for that trivia question.
Are you disguising your voice?
Yes, I am. You remember Floyd?
Floyd. But, you know, there was also a Floyd the Barber, I think, on the Great Gildersleeve show.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen that one, though.
Okay. All right, so you are entering this. And by the way, we had a judge's ruling on this. It's the recipient of the birthday cake contest. Not that it matters now anyway, but the recipient of the birthday cake contest who would be ineligible for 30 days. You have not won a prize, so let's take a stab at the trivia question for a $10 gift certificate to Kimball Tavern Antiques.
The last name is Lawson.
Lawson.
Floyd Lawson's Tonsorial Parlor.
Say that again?
Floyd Lawson's Tonsorial Parlor.
Is that what he called it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a big fan of the Andy Griffith Show?
No, I get kind of tired of it, but I grew up with that.
I see the reruns are on at 8 o'clock. Not that I should say that during my show.
Yeah.
They're on 8 o'clock on MeTV.
And I watch MeTV, but you'll notice I have your show on right now.
Yes, I know you have 2 TVs there. Okay. All right, well, the judges say you win.
Wow, that's good.
You win. $10 gift certificate to Kimball Tavern Antiques. Do you have a special idea in mind when you visit Kimball Tavern?
No, I just want to see what he's got in there because I've never been over there.
Oh, well, see, this is exactly, this is an advertiser's secret, of course. Give something away to bring in a new customer.
Yep.
And it succeeds. Now, do you collect anything like Fiesta ware or anything like that?
No, mostly just dust.
Mostly what?
Dust.
Ducks?
Dust.
Dust. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. I'm so slow tonight.
No, I don't collect ducks.
Well,
save them for the geese.
We had something on the air about that, so I was trying to bring all these things together, I guess. So you collect dust. Okay. I think you're better than that. So, all right. Well, see what you can find. I hope you'll let us know what you find at Kimball Tavern Antiques.
I will.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. See, on all the prizes on this program, thank you very much to our friends at Kimball Tavern Antiques, corner of Salem and South Main Streets on the Bradford side of the river. No one has yet answered my comment about what to call Bradford. Not late for dinner? I know, that's another old one. Okay, I'm getting punchy as the show goes on. Okay, so... thank you. Brian wins a $10 gift certificate. Sophie wins a cake from our friends at Albie D's Second Generation Italian Bakery. And now let's go to our next. It's on your side? All right, so Nate's going to bring him over. Is this David?
I hope so.
All right. You haven't won anything tonight.
No, but we're getting there.
Okay. All right. So I took the liberty of looking at some of these Haverhill references in the Horror Guide to Massachusetts. Now, listen, folks, it's not too late to get this book in time. Of course, not that you have to do it for Halloween. You could do it as a holiday gift, or just bedside reading. And if you have children, it's a good opportunity to tell them some stories that involve this. Now, what do we have here? Now, even under the Boston listing, I see a reference to Haverhill. This something about the John Ward House.
Ah, yes. Now you threw me off on a left wing on that one. Congratulations. It only took you 30 years.
All right, yes, okay.
H.P. Lovecraft visited the Paul Revere house. And while he was in there, he remarked how the scent of an old building, that musty, ancient smell that you get that just pervades an old building that hasn't been restored.
Or my suit coat, same thing.
I didn't say a word. But he thought it was very evocative for people who wrote weird fiction. And his thought continued that only 2 buildings
Yes?
had real.
I think your phone skipped for a second.
It wouldn't be surprising. The John Ward house he had visited, and he thought that was right up there with the Paul Revere in terms of the scent of the antiquity.
Okay, I see. All right. And then, let's see, what other references do we have here? We have a number of Bradford, including a Bradfield, based on Bradford. And
what
this
you
is...
won't see is Kimball Tavern.
Oh, you won't see Kimball Tavern. Well, maybe next time. Well, he has to be in literature for this book, right?
I have a confession.
Yes.
Kimball Tavern is haunted. I know I started it.
You haunting it?
Not personally.
Not personally. Okay, because I'm thinking maybe you're a ghost, and this would be really interesting that a ghost calls the show so often. All right,
Back in the dark ages, when I went to Bradford College, one of the classes went down there to have a meeting of some sort, and I don't remember why on earth we picked it, but it was...
Is that where you smoked the funny weed?
No, we didn't have to. They had stopped growing them outside by that point. But we were in the downstairs, and a couple of the girls in the class, in fact, I think one was Kathy O'Malley,
Okay.
decided, I had heard it was haunted, so they were going to go upstairs and look around. Little known fact, there are 2 staircases in Bradford, in the tavern.
Okay.
So I ran up the second flight and got up there before they did. And then when they got to the top of the landing, I just dragged my fingernails down the door jamb.
Ah. All right, Woody, those fingernail marks, they're David's.
Prove it.
Oh, now it's interesting, though, in Bradford here, now I never heard this before, the Haverhill paperboard plant makes your list.
Yes.
It would have been the last landmark along Water Street that H.P. Lovecraft would have seen before the trolley took the fork onto Groveland Street toward his correspondent and amateur journalism friend Tryout Smith's house. And, of course, if you're a long-time HAV listener, you'll find that we have talked about Tryout Smith on this show, and he makes a Wavelengths story that David wrote as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, what did
and
you...
he's actually, his kind of like Louis Hamill, just segueing everything together. He left school at the age of 14 to work with his father in the mills. And he worked his way up in the mills to manager and then finally bought the company. The problem with Tryout Smith was he bought a wooden box mill, which means they were making wooden boxes at the time.
Okay.
So what happened was, of course, cardboard.
Oh, okay.
So when cardboard came in, it kind of killed the market for the, wooden boxes. So he started supplementing his income by selling sawdust. The problem was the guy next door had a fire. It caught his mill on fire. The whole thing went up like a match, surprise, surprise. And his mill was located right behind the old city hall. And people were terrified that this was going to be another second great fire. And they were going to take out the city hall when they did.
No, they use urban renewal for that.
Yeah, well, it's less efficient, but...
All right, now I see a reference here that still includes Haverhill, Grove Hall, Dorchester. Tell us the connection to Haverhill.
Dorchester. Although technically, it might also be Roxbury. It's right on the town line. That would be your friend and mine, Dr. Duncan McDougall.
Oh, wow.
The man who weighed souls.
All right, and David's doing some work on that story, even after he's written one for us.
Fascinating material. there is I'll call it a schism, but it's not that big of a fuss. But the Presbyterian Church was going through a thing. How's that for technical? And the professors in the Presbyterian churches were starting to teach evolution. Now, the problem with evolution from a Presbyterian's perspective was if mankind was evolved from animals and animals did not have a soul, where did mankind get its soul?
Building 19?
I don't think it was open yet.
Okay.
So you had this argument going on as to whether we were actually evolved from animals, and if we did, was the soul therefore a spiritual augmentation that came on at a later point? Or was Genesis a literal interpretation and mankind was created from the dust of the earth, in which case the soul would have been a physical component of the body?
I see.
Yeah, that's more than you needed, I know. But that was the whole point of his experiments.
No, that's
Weigh
right.
the body before and after death. If the soul is a physical manifestation, there will be a weight loss.
So this is David is augmenting a story that's already run in wavelengths with some new information.
Well, I didn't want it. This is a little dry for wavelengths.
No, but it's interesting. So look at that. Now I see Dustin Heights. Author John Bellairs creates a fictionalized version of 1950s Haverhill as the world of Johnny Dixon and Professor Childermass?
Childermass.
Wow.
It's kind of fun, the series, because not only is he in Dustin Heights with the statue of the lady with the axe, but they go up into the old White Mountains. They're not called the White Mountains. And he actually describes a profile on one of the tall mountains that was very famous, Hag's Witch. And at the end of the story, they crumble the head, just like the old man in the mountain falls apart.
Oh.
So he predicted it 20 years before the fact.
David, I always thought it was me, but I guess it's you. HCTV has cut us off, at least cut us off 2 minutes early, although now it's 8:30. And they're running a rerun that I've seen, I don't know, a dozen times after the show. So, but whatever. Listeners who are on the bonus program, as we'll call it, on WHAV.tv or WHAV.net or some poor soul who's trying to get through the static on AM 1640 can still hear you.
Well, I'll leave you with this throwaway note. Floyd the Barber had one other role he was very famous for. He played it for 9 years. What was that? And this is one you should know.
The Doctor on Gunsmoke Radio.
There you go. It's a shame none of the local stations play those classic old radio programs.
Yeah, Saturday at 10. But here's one you should know. He makes a cameo appearance frequently. I guess they're not cameos. I don't know if they're audio. But frequently on another show that airs at 10 o'clock on WHAV.
Ooh, I like it. I don't know the answer. I'm going to guess it's Great Gildersleeve.
No, he shows up frequently on yours truly, Johnny Dollar, as playing a bit part, usually like the guy at the pharmacy or something who's giving directions.
Oh, so this is after Johnny Dollar had moved to the Hollywood.
Yes,
because initially Floyd the Barber was working out of the New York stations.
Yeah, actually, I think the cast, I mean, those who were willing to travel made the move, and but he does appear. What's his real name? Oh, boy. I should know
Howard
this.
McNear?
Yes, absolutely. If we only had a prize. All right.
Yeah, I'm not qualified, unfortunately.
All right, well, we worked in a lot of news here at the end of the program. We'll have more on WHAV News tomorrow. And we'll see. I didn't hear a big sigh when any of this came up, so maybe it's not surprising that Baker endorsed TUI.
I stay out of Massachusetts politics. I have no choice. I have enough trouble with Florida.
No, you're very much involved in it when you cover horror.
Yeah, just remember, we got Governor Voldemort running against a Republican pretending to be a Democrat.
Yes, it is a little complicated down there.
Oh, yeah, let's go with complicated.
Susan Harris comes to mind. But anyway.
Or Pam Bondi.
Yeah, maybe we should just let it go while we're not too far behind.
Yeah.
All right, David, thank you very much, and happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween. I'll talk to you later.
I think I owe you some return calls. I've made a note of what they
I
were.
know where you are for the next hour. I may call off air.
All right, thanks so much, David.
You bet.
Good night. All right, that will wrap up the open mic show, radio, television, the web, soon FM radio, we hope. And welcome back to Nathan E. Webster III. Those of you who were waiting anxiously to hear his NASCAR race recap, the producer, Nathan Webster, preempted the sports writer, Nathan Webster, but I'm told engineer Nathan Webster is going to put that back right after this show. So have a great evening, everyone. War of the Worlds, 10 p.m. Thursday, encore 1 a.m. Friday. Make sure you tune in for that. Have a great night.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. picks up his first win at Martinsville in his first grandfather clock. He proved to be an eliminator round chase spoiler as he took the win away from Jeff Gordon and Ryan Newman. Dale says that this is an emotional day for him since the Hendrick family lost several of their own 10 years ago, and reminisces about how he always wanted one of those clocks.
It all worked out. I know by running here so many times that everything has to go right for you. We had amazing pit stops. We had really smart, good, aggressive strategy, and at the end we had to get the right things had to happen on that restart to get by those guys, and it just sort of did. This is so special. I try not to get too caught up in the emotion of it because it's a team deal, but this is very personal and very special to me to be able to win here.
Cautions early in the race for non-chasers Alex Bowman, Travis Quapple, Timmy Hill, and Kyle Fowler, all getting spun in turns 1 and 2 while trying